What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're getting into my Week 1 NFL predictions. We are finally here, man. I'm so hyped for this season. Let's get into these predictions. Last season, I went 172 and 97 in my full predictions. So, my goal last season was to not get to 100 losses. We made that goal. This year, let's hope that we can get to 90 losses or less. That would be pretty good. That would be pretty impressive if we could finish in the 80s of losses. So that's my goal. Yeah, let's dive into these predictions here. Starting out here with the first game of the season, we have the defending Super Bowl champions hosting the very hyped up Detroit Lions here. This one should be a fun one. We got two very explosive offenses here. I think with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, man, it's going to be a very, very good offense. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid, man, it's very hard to stop. Those three pieces there might just make this offense the best in the entire league. They don't really need much else there. You look at the Lions offense. You look at Jared Goff. He had a very solid season last year. You look at the weapons, Amon-Ra St. Brown. This offensive line is one of the best in the entire NFL for the Lions. Dan Campbell, good coach. They got Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery in the backfield. It should be a good running attack for the Lions. So I'm excited to see how all that goes. But it's going to be tough, though, for this defense. I think this defense is still young. I think a lot of people are counting out that this defense wasn't too great last season. They played well in that final game. They have some young pieces, but they're going to struggle, I think, against Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. I am going to go with the Chiefs in this one at home. This is just going to be too much, I think, for that Lions defense in Week 1. So I'm going to give this one to the Chiefs. All right, moving on, we have an intriguing second matchup between the Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons. Bryce Young's debut game, man. I'm excited to see how he looks in a Panthers uniform. I'm going to be honest, he doesn't have a whole ton of help. The weapons for the Panthers are not great. The O-line, mediocre. I think the run game for the Panthers is going to be good. I think the O-line's pretty good at the run attack. Not the best at the pass, though. Miles Sanders, good running back. So you like that side of the ball. You like that for them. And then the defense for the Panthers is a very good defense, an underrated one at that. I think it's a very solid defense. But they're gonna have their hands full against a very I think has a lot of potential for this Falcons offense with their weapons, Kyle Pitts and Drake London. They got some good weapons there. Arthur Smith knows how to utilize that. He's a very good coach. And then obviously Bijan Robinson bringing in that running back. He was so freaking good at Texas. It's going to be a very explosive attack. And not to mention you have Tyler Algier back there as well, who's a very, very good back as well. He played very good last season as well. So 1,000 rush yards. So you love to see that. The defense for the Falcons, though, still young, but I do think they can have a good year. I think they improved last season as the season went on, and I think that they can keep building on that this season with their young players that they got. So this Falcons team, I think, is pretty good. This is going to be a big game, though. I think we might see some setbacks from this new coaching staff for the Panthers and from Bryce Young. It's going to be a new thing here for the Panthers. It's going to be a little bit rough. The defense, though, very good, like I said. And the Falcons, we don't know how Desmond Ridder is going to look. I think that the Falcons should have enough, though. I think Ridder should be a good enough quarterback to lead this team to a victory. So I'm going to give this one to Atlanta, but I can see this one going either way. I'm excited to see how this one ends up because, like I said, this could be a big game in what happens at the end of the NFC South because I see these two being right there. All right, moving on here, we have the Cleveland Browns against the Cincinnati Bengals. And we look at Cleveland. This is one of these teams that I'm very uncertain on. Are we going to see the Deshaun Watson that we saw in Houston? Because if we do, this Browns team is a contender for sure. They have the weapons. They have the running attack with Nick Chubb. They have the offensive line. They have the defense, man. This defense is very good. They did have a really good free agency. The coaching's a little bit question mark too. That's another one of these concerns is can Kevin Stefanski and this coaching staff have a bounce back year? Because I think that they have it in them. They had a really good season a couple years ago with Baker in that team. So that's interesting for the Browns. The Bengals, though, I'm certain on. I'm certain that this team's going to be very, very good this season. I'm certain that Joe Burrow is a top 2 quarterback. Other than Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow is right there with a very good quarterback. And then obviously a lot of weapons. The O-line, a little bit of a concerning, but I do think that they're getting better, and I think they're going to have a good year. And then the defense for the Bengals, I think, is underrated. I think it's a good defense. It's definitely a top 16 defense for sure in this league, and I think it's enough. So with the uncertainty of the Browns, I know this is at home for Cleveland, which could help in their favor. But with the uncertainty for Deshaun Watson, I'm going to have to see a week of that. And I am certain that the Bengals are a very, very good team. So I think that's the difference there. I'm going to give that one to Cincinnati. All right, moving on down here, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Indianapolis Colts, an AFC South matchup here. I think this one's a lopsided one, though. You look at Trevor Lawrence and the Colts, I think, and the Jaguars. I think Lawrence, man, he's going to have a breakout season. He's going to keep building on that very good year he had last year, and the Jaguars are going to be a good team, man. Bringing in Calvin Ridley, I think is going to be a big effect too. Calvin Ridley, very sneaky good receiver there. The O-line for the Jaguars is decent, and they're a well-coached team. And the defense for the Jaguars is pretty good as well. So that all that comes into factor, but really it lies on the Colts side of the ball, I think, for me. Jonathan Taylor not being there is a big factor. The defense for the Colts, not very good. The offense line for the Colts, I think, could get eaten up by Josh Allen and the pass rush for the Jaguars. I think that's going to be rough for sure for Indianapolis. And I think that Anthony Richardson, very raw quarterback coming out, could he have a good game now that he has NFL coaching? He definitely could, but I'm not betting on that. I'm betting on the Jaguars in this one. I don't really see the Colts winning this one, if I'm going to be honest. I think the Colts are going to have their setbacks to start out this year, and I think the Jaguars can get this win in opening week. All right, moving on. We have the next matchup here between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Minnesota Vikings. And another lopsided one, I think. I think this Vikings offense with Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, adding Jordan Addison is going to be a big addition. This offense is going to be pretty darn good, I think, for the Vikings. As we saw last year, I think this is the perfect set for Brian Flores' new defense to get set up. They get I think, a pretty easy one, I think, here, unless Baker Mayfield balls out, because the Buccaneers have a good offense. They have good weapons, but other than that, not a really good O-line, especially on the interior. I think this team's going to very, very much struggle to get this run attack going this season. And I think that's going to set them back. And I think Brian Flores' defense is going to have a good game for the Vikings, and we're going to see something good out of Minnesota here. So I do think that the Vikings probably will run away with this one. I'm not the biggest fan of Tampa Bay, unless Baker Mayfield completely puts this offense on his back with those weapons. I don't think that the Buccaneers are going to win this one. The Buccaneers do have a good defense, but I don't think it's going to be enough. All right, moving on, we have the New Orleans Saints against the Tennessee Titans, and I think I'm going to pull off my first upset here. At least when it comes to these percentages on the side, I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans in this game. Reasons why, you look at Tennessee here, and I like this team. I like this offense. Derrick Henry, they obviously added DeAndre Hopkins, going to be a big factor, and Ryan Tannehill is still Ryan Tannehill. He's going to be a decent quarterback. And then this is a very well-coached team with Mike Vrabel. Really, really well-coached team. At this point, underrated. A lot of people are sleeping on the Titans. The defense is going to be pretty darn good as well. But really, the Saints, I'm not a fan of. I'm going to be honest. I think they're way overhyped this season. Derek Carr, I think, had a sneaky bad season last year, and I think it's going to be getting worse for him in a new situation here with not the best offensive line. They do have some decent weapons, Chris Olave and Michael Thomas, but Alvin Kamara's out. Jamal Williams, I'm a believer in Jamal Williams. He's a good back, but he's not going to be able to carry this team. And I think the Titans defense is better than the Saints defense. Hot take there. I think the Saints defense is getting a little bit older, and I don't think that they're going to be able to keep up. And the most important thing, I don't think the Saints team is well coached at all. And I think that's going to come into a factor here for the Titans. And I'm going to go with Tennessee. I think that they're just the better team in week 1, even on the road. I think it should be enough for them to get the win. All right, moving on down here, we have the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And actually, I am very excited for this matchup. I think this one's going to be a good one between these two. This is going to be a close game, I think. I think Kenny Pickett and the Steelers, their offense, they improved it in free agency. They had a really, really good free agency. They improved the O-line with drafting that tackle in the draft, man. I love it, man. I love it. This Steelers this O-line's going to be better. Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, I think, are going to have a good year. And then it relies on Kenny Pickett, and I'm a believer in Kenny Pickett. I think he's going to be a good quarterback for this team, obviously with Najee Harris as well. Obviously, the Niners' defense is top in the league, but I think that this offense should hold their own. But then you look at the Niners' offense, Brock Purdy, some questions there. He's coming off an injury. I'm not the biggest hyper for Brock Purdy and the Niners offense. They obviously have Christian McCaffrey, but you just can't always rely on that run attack. And the Steelers defense is very solid and very well coached with Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin, I think, is going to know how to win this football game for the Steelers. And I'm going to give this one. At Pittsburgh is a big factor as well. That crowd is going to be rocking in week 1. This is going to be a fun one. I think the Steelers pull off an upset. That's even a bigger upset than my earlier one. The Steelers, I think, win that one. All right, down here, a less exciting matchup here. We have the Arizona Cardinals and the Washington Commanders. Man, yeah, both these teams, this is how we're going to see these teams this season. Just not great football teams, I think. But this is a perfect game for Sam Howell, I think, to get ready. This Cardinals defense is very young, inexperienced. We don't really know what we're going to see there. And I think the Cardinals defense is not going to be very good this season. It's just too young, and they just have too many questions on that side of the ball. And then you look at the Commanders' defense, it should be good enough, I think, for them to win this one. I think the Commanders are just clearly the better team here. And even if Sam Howell struggles a little bit, whoever's the quarterback for the Cardinals, I think, is going to struggle more, and the Commanders are going to get the win. All right, down here, we have the Ravens and the Houston Texans, and I'm just going to be straight up. I don't really see a world where Houston wins this one. This is probably going to be in that Eliminator Challenge thing that ESPN does. This is going to be my pick for the lock of the week because I do not see the Texans winning this one, I'm going to be honest. It's just too much of a mismatch. The Texans defense is going to be very, very good. I know that the Ravens defense is going to be very, very good. Roquan Smith and the linebacker group is very good. This Ravens defense is one of the best in the league. Jim Harbaugh has coached it well. It's going to be tough for Houston. CJ Stroud's debut game, going to be tough against a very good defense. I just don't see the Texans having a whole lot of success there. They do have a good running attack with Dameon Pierce, but it's just a very much an uncertainty on the offensive side of the ball for Houston. And then the defense, the same thing. I know DeMeco Ryans was a great hire, but it's not going to be enough, I think, against Lamar Jackson and this offense. It's just too much uncertainty on that side of the ball. I think that in week 1, the Texans are going to have to take their time to get better. And I do not see an upset happening here. I'm going to be honest. I really see the Ravens running away with this one. This is probably going to be my lock of the week. All right, but now this is one that I really struggled on. We have the Chicago Bears against the Green Bay Packers, man. I struggled on this one because I look at this Packers defense, and if the Packers defense is much better coached than they are last season, for sure, I think this Packers team wins this game. But I don't trust that side of the ball. I don't trust how they're coached. I don't think it's the right system for this defense. And I think that they're going to – I don't even know. I think that they might struggle in that one. But I really did like what I saw from Jordan Love and in this preseason. but the offense isn't the best around there. It's not Aaron Rodgers carrying the offense. Am I saying Jordan Love's going to be Aaron Rodgers? I don't think I can say that at this point in time. So, you look at the Bears, Justin Fields. I definitely think this Bears team's getting too overhyped. I think the 71% to 29% is completely too much there. I think this should be more 50-50. But Justin Fields, I think he obviously can run. He can do that. I think can play well against this Packers defense. The Bears have a very good receivers, I think, as well with Darnell Mooney, Sky or DJ Moore, and why are their names slipping my mind? Chase Claypool. The offensive line, they've drafted Darnell Wright. They improved that O line. The defense still has some work to do, but I do think it's going to be enough. Chicago being at home, if this was at Green Bay, I think I would pick the Packers. But with the Bears at home, the Bears are going to finally beat Green Bay. Congratulations to them. And I'm going to go Chicago. All right, down here we have the Denver Broncos against the Las Vegas Raiders here. And this should be a one that a lot of people are thinking the Raiders are going to win. That sentence did not make any sense. Sorry. This should be. I don't even know why I said that, but anyway, you look at the Broncos here. Russell Wilson and Sean Payton, man, very, very good duo. I think there. I think Russell Wilson's going to have a very good bounce back year. I'm a believer in Russ. I think the Broncos are going to be good. I know that Jerry Jeudy's probably out for this one, and Tim Patrick's out for the season. That dude just cannot stay healthy. It's unfortunate, but yeah. But the Broncos' offensive line is concerning. I think that O-line is that side of the ball that's going to take its time to get better as the year goes on. I do think that Max Crosby and Tyree Wilson's a very good duo at that pass rush. But other than that Raiders defense, I think, is very bad. You look at that Raiders offense, it's Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs. That is that offense right there for sure. And I don't think that's going to be enough for Jimmy Garoppolo and the Broncos, and the Raiders to win this one. You look at that Broncos defense; it's one of the best in the league. I think they should be good enough, I think, to win this one for Denver. I think the Broncos are just clearly the better team, and I think the Broncos beat Las Vegas. All right, down here, we look at the Philadelphia Eagles against the New England Patriots. A lot of people counting out New England in this one, and I'm pumping the brakes on this one. This is not lock of the week material. I think a lot of people could see it as that, but I'm pumping my brakes. Bill Belichick. We forget how good of a coach he is. Yeah, and this Patriots team, has a very good defense. They brought in some free agents that are trying to go after it this year to make the playoffs at least. They're obviously lacking weapons, though, that's for sure, but their O-line's decent. But it's really the Eagles that I look at here, and this is where I'm pumping my brakes a little bit because we've seen in the past of the history of the NFL that teams that lose the Super Bowl the previous year struggle in week one, especially of the season. It's a history thing. It's there for sure to start out the seasons for some teams, but I think the Eagles might be the outlier because this team, I think, is the most complete team in the league. We look at some of the teams in the past, they did have their uncertainty for sure from losing the Super Bowl. The Eagles, I think they're just locked up and loaded to go for next season. I think that's what the Eagles are. But like I said, I'm pumping my brakes. I could see a world where Bill Belichick and the Patriots win this one from an Eagles team that's still on that hangover from the Super Bowl. But the Eagles, probably the most complete team in the league. I think they'll be fine. It is in New England, though. That's another concern. This is upset territory for sure, but I am going to give this one to Philadelphia in week one. All right, moving on down here, we have the Miami Dolphins taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. Very good game here. I'm excited for this one. These are two very explosive offenses with Tua. I think Tua's going to have a very good season. Justin Herbert. I think Herbert's going to have a very good season. Both these teams got very good weapons at the receivers. I do lean with the Dolphins receivers a little bit more there. And running backs that I think are going to have a good year. Austin Eckler, one of the best running backs in the league. And then the Dolphins with that O-line, very good O-line. it's going to be a good run attack as well. Very fast running backs in that backfield. But then it comes down to the defense here. I think that the Chargers defense is not as good as the Dolphins defense. I think that's going to be a factor here. And I think that the Dolphins are the better coach team. So I think those two factors that come into play here is going to be enough for the Miami Dolphins to win this one. But this one's going to be a fun one. I can see this one going either way. It is in Los Angeles. Miami has to travel a far distance to play this one. But I am going to go with the Dolphins to barely get the win. All right, down here we have the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Los Angeles Rams. This one I am a little bit more certain on, that Seattle's probably going to win this football game, to be honest with a lot of you guys. I'm giving this one to Seattle. As a Seahawks fan, I'm a big believer in this team. Geno Smith and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, that's going to be a very good quarterback to receiver duos there. Obviously, I think that we saw it last year. It was very good last season. It's going to be good this season. I'm a believer in Geno. The run attack for the Seahawks is going to work out. The O-line for Seattle has its questions. It's a young unit, but I think this O-line could break loose this season with Charles Cross, Abraham Lucas, Damian Lewis, and Phil Haynes. Needs to have a good year, I think. And then I forgot the center's name. But the Seahawks offensive line, I think it's young, but I think it can have a good year. But then I really look at the Rams here. The Rams, you can point out Matthew Stafford. You can point out Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald and Sean McVay all you want, but those four assets are not going to be everything you need to win in this National Football League. If you look at outside of that, if you go past those three players and the coach, my oh my, this team is very bad. I think they have a very bad depth. They have not great weapons. The O-line sucks. I'm just going to be frank. Aaron Donald is really the only pass rush that they got. The secondary is not good. The linebackers are not good. It's really this Rams team. I did in my power rankings. I said it. The Rams are the 31st best team in the league, and I'm sticking to that. This Rams team is not good at all. I think that they're going to lose this one pretty bad. I think Seattle should easily win this one. All right, moving on here, we have the Dallas Cowboys taking on the New York Giants. Fun NFC East rivalry game here on Sunday Night Football. This just feels like a Week 1 Sunday Night Football game. Dallas against New York. I feel like I've seen so many in the past of these two facing off in a Sunday Night Football matchup. But you look at both these teams. I like New York. Their defense, very solid, well-coached team. Their offense gets by with what they got. They got Darren Waller. Their offense is going to be better, I think, than it was last season. I think they can build on last year. But then if you look at the Cowboys, I think the Cowboys are one of the better teams in the entire NFL here. Dak Prescott is a manageable quarterback. He will get the job done. He will win football games for you. And then you look, they got very good weapons. They got a very good O-line. Tony Pollard, I think, is going to have a really good year. And the defense is top 3 in the league, in my opinion. So at least top 5. So I do think that the Cowboys will win this one. I know it's on the road. The Giants are going to give the Cowboys some struggles. But I think that with the Cowboys being the better team, they should be able to win this one in Week 1. All right, final game of this here. We have the Monday Night Football game between the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets. I'm excited for this one between Buffalo and New York. I'm excited to see how Aaron Rodgers looks in his first season with a New York Jet. Because this Jets team, their O-line is concerning, but the Jets do have some weapons for Rodgers to throw to. Garrett Wilson, going to be a good receiver, I think, this season. You look at the Jets defense, I think they should have a pretty good year as they did last season. But some uncertainty how Rodgers is going to look in the new thing. This could be the same thing we saw last year from the Denver Broncos. I'm not entirely sure how it's going to look, man. I do have some questions after we saw that from last year. But Rodgers is a historically great quarterback, so he should be fine. We look at the Bills. We know what the Bills are. Josh Allen, these receivers with Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs. The O-line's good. The running attack is probably that outlier there. That's a little bit of a question with those running backs, but it should be fine. The linebackers are good. The pass rush, I do have some question marks on that one, but it's a good enough pass rush that they should be able to work that Jets offensive line. And then you obviously have the cornerbacks and the secondary for the Bills. That's very good. So I am going to go kind of like to the Browns and Bengals game. I think that the certainty for the Bills is going to outweigh that uncertainty for the Jets, but I could easily see New York winning this one in week 1 on Monday night. All right, that is my predictions video. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. I'm so hyped to watch these games, man. The NFL's back. Let's go, baby. Anyway, guys, peace out.